Hello everybody, this is Train King James, and we are back with another tier list video. However, we're going to do this one a little bit differently. The problem is, the way I used to do these videos, I used to screen record off of the tier list maker, or tier maker website, and the problem is that site just gets so many ads on it, and you can't really get rid of them. They're not really like pop-up ads, they're like the typical Google ads. And they get in the way and they block the screen, and it's just hard to work around for a video. So rather than continuing to do the screen recordings, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pre-make the tier list, and then we're going to go through the tiers from worst to best and break down the episodes that way. So as you guys know, this will be the final tier list of 2024. We have successfully completed 14 movies and several specials, so that's pretty exciting, and we'll obviously be wrapping up this series next year. In terms of all the tier list for seasons 1 through 20, I know there were some comments in the last video about me continuing to do more than just season 20, but to be blunt, I really just don't like seasons 21 through 24, and I really just don't want to go back through those seasons. It's arguably my least favorite part of the show. And a lot of it just doesn't feel like Thomas to me. And I know there's parts of season 21 that are good and whatnot. I don't really want to have to rewatch Journey Beyond Sodor. I don't want to have to rewatch Big World, Big Adventures. I don't want to do any of that. I just want to watch a lot of this chunk of the show that I do like and kind of go over my thoughts and leave the rest to another time. If I ever do feel like it, maybe when that part of the show gets a little older, then yeah, I'll do a tier list then. But for right now, I don't know, I just really am not feeling doing that far, so we'll stop at season 20. But anyway, let's focus on season 14, and we'll start with the F tier. So in the F tier, we have 4 episodes. If you remember correctly, in season 13, I believe we didn't have any. So season 14, not a great season, especially for Henry, as he has 2 episodes in this tier. So the 4 episodes that we have: Thomas and the Snowman Party, Henry's Magic Box, Pingy Pongy Pickup, and Henry's Health and Safety. And just to go over each episode, why they belong here, Thomas and the Snowman Party is kind of just a frustrating episode where Thomas makes very bad and dumb decisions, and very obviously dumb decisions. He's literally stealing people's hats to help the kids, and you know, there's really no repercussions for it, and it's just kind of annoying. So, just a bad episode overall, so that goes in F tier. Henry's Magic Box, it's kind of one of those characters really stupid for no reason episodes, and Henry is just such a worrier in this episode, and I'm not sure why. The episode emphasizes that Henry's an older engine, and that he should, like, know better. I don't know why he is this way. I don't know where this personality came from, and we'll talk about this personality more in the episode that I arguably thought was the worst. Pingy Pongy Pickup is an episode that I really just thought was just a weird Emily episode. It felt like regression for a character. She's fairly mature in the show, and there's times where she can get angry and bossy, but this episode, it doesn't really feel like a natural, angry, bossy Emily. It feels more like I'm gonna do things when I want, and I don't care what you say. And it's just really petty. Like, she gets into a tug-of-war with Percy. She causes James to have an accident. It just feels really, really dumb. And I get it, she likes the team, but this is just not a really well-written Emily episode. And then we have Henry's Health and Safety. Yikes. This episode is ridiculously poorly written. Like, it is so bad. It, like, arguably might be one of the worst episodes of this show, bad. I'm not even joking. Because the plot makes no sense. So, to really sum up the plot, Henry gets into an accident because someone left the truck on the line. We don't know who, it's not really important to the episode. At the Steamworks, Victor reminds him about health and safety and how he has to be careful of hazards on the track. So Henry goes about his day, and he notices that there's a car of telegraph poles left on the track, some of which are falling onto the track, and Henry's like, oh, I gotta move those. So he goes to the rescue center and pretty much kidnaps Rocky, brings him to the site to move the car out of the way, pick up the poles. They hide them on a siding out of the way. Percy comes looking for the car of poles. Henry doesn't tell him that he moved them, and just kind of says health and safety to Percy and leaves. Then he comes across a car of wires. Same thing happens. Henry moves them with Rocky. Percy's still looking for them, and eventually Percy keeps looking for so long that Percy ends up running out of water, I believe. And then Henry sees Percy stuck in the tracks, so he tries to move him out of the way, where the Fat Controller catches him. I kind of... This is a better example of how to use Henry's worrying personality, because it kind of makes him a hypochondriac. This aspect works a little bit, but the problem with this episode is Henry's kind of in the right for the most part. I mean, he shouldn't have stolen Rocky, but, like, you can't just leave trucks in the middle of a main line. Like, the episode establishes why that's a problem, and then when Henry does the things to eradicate the problem, he's then in the wrong. I guess if he told Percy he moved them and they shouldn't be in the middle of a main line, that would be different, but I don't really know why Henry's the bad guy here. I mean, this episode is basically Rule 55, but, like, explained, but also really badly explained, and it doesn't make sense. I don't know why they did it this way, but anyway, moving on to the D tier episodes. So in D tier, we also have 4 other episodes. You have Pop Goes Thomas, Thomas in Charge, Charlie and Eddie, and Toby in the Whistling Woods. And these are just bad episodes for various reasons. Pop Goes Thomas and Thomas in Charge are just Thomas being an idiot in episodes for no reason. And it really, like, some of his goals are very confusing as to why he's doing what he's doing. And obviously gets him into trouble. These two are just really not that fun to watch. Charlie and Eddie, I feel like there's a way to make this episode work. I don't like the way Edward is treated in this episode, because again, it's just a disservice to his character, but there's a way to make Edward work here. I think if you continually have Edward resist Charlie's temptations and, like, trying to get him to be a more fun engine, I think the episode works, and it's more about Charlie than it is about Edward. And Charlie just considers Edward an old stuck-up engine, but Edward tries to show Charlie maybe, like, the fun in doing your work correctly. I could see it working that way. They don't do it that way, they kind of do the opposite, and it's not really good. Toby in the Whistling Woods is just a really dumb episode where Toby keeps getting into accidents because he's scared of the woods, even though Toby lives in the woods. Yeah, go figure. Just another episode, another group of just really bad episodes. So then we move on to C tier. In C tier, we have, I believe, 7 episodes. We have James in the Dark, Diesel's Special Delivery, Oh the Indignity, Thomas and Scruff, Jitters and Japes, Thomas's Tall Friend, and Mary Misty Island. Now these episodes are in this tier for various reasons. James in the Dark, it's James kind of being stupid. I can see why he doesn't want to wear a lamp, but, like, you wear lamps all the time, and it makes him, like, disturbingly blind, but also James is telling random, like, goes to the station and tells people to get on board. But, like, it's Farmer McColl and his, like, cow, and it's, like, Farmer Trotter and I think his pigs or ducks or something, I don't remember. And it's just, what are we doing here? Like, why are you guys getting on a train that's clearly not for you? Diesel's Special Delivery. This episode is close to being a good episode. Unfortunately, it's just, I don't know, it doesn't really do a lot of, it doesn't do a lot with its plot. It is kind of messed up that we do get a Diesel. It is kind of messed up that, you know, James just puts down Diesel for being a Diesel. It's a little out of character for Diesel to care so much, but I digress. But if this episode were better written, I think it would be a better, it would rank a little bit higher. Oh, the Indignity, and kind of Jitters and Japes are in this tier for the same reason. They're kind of weaker plots that don't have a lot to stand on, especially Jitters and Japes. Like, this episode could have been much better if it was shorter. Like, if this was a classic series episode, it would be much more entertaining. We all know where the story's going, it just doesn't go anywhere. Thomas and Scruff is just kind of a weaker episode as well, where not much happens. It's not objectively bad, it's just not all that interesting. Thomas's Tall Friend is kind of like a annoying episode as well. Mary Misty Island. So, if you guys have noticed through this point, we are in C tier, and Bash Dash and Ferdinand have appeared on this list only once. And it was through this rewatch that I've honestly grown a better appreciation for the characters in Misty Island. I don't necessarily love them, but I better understand what they are. And to really explain how I feel about them, they're really good as side characters to work off of a main character. They're not really good as main characters. And Merry Misty Island is an episode that kind of proves it. It's a little too much of them, so it's a little annoying. And I just don't think the story's very strong. I mean, these are characters that don't really have to learn much. They're kind of just hicks. And that's their whole shtick, is they don't really have, like, unique personalities. They're just kind of hicks. And because of that, it's hard to write an episode around them. So that is the entire C tier. Then we move on to B tier, which has 3 episodes. We have Victor Says Yes, Jumping Joey Wood, and Thomas's Crazy Day. And I'll be honest, if you told me going into this that these 2 episodes, Jumping Joey Wood and Thomas's Crazy Day, would rank so high, I would not have believed you. I honestly didn't remember these episodes well. Well, actually, Jumping Joey Wood was one I kind of liked when it came out. And then I kind of stopped liking it because it was like, ugh, Misty Island sucks. But then you rewatch it, it's actually kind of a fun episode if you look at it from the perspective of Edward. Because Edward in that episode is just kind of put through hell, for lack of a better term. It's the entire episode is just Edward. It's Edward trying to understand the logic of Misty Island, and nothing makes sense to him. He's basically the audience, and I find that kind of relatable. Thomas's Crazy Day is funny. It's kind of one of those character has to do 2 things at once, and they have to keep going to different places, and they can't just do one thing. So it's really tricky to balance it all. And Cranky, I think, is really well written, because he just doesn't care about teaching Bash Dash and Ferdinand. So I think you get this really gruff Cranky working off these weird hickey engines. And then, obviously, Victor Says Yes. It's nice to get a Victor-focused episode. I like the idea of how earnestly Victor's trying to help and fix everybody. I do like the running gag throughout the episode of Ari and Bert being annoyed, which also is their welcome back to CGI, by the way. It's the idea that, like, Ari and Bert are like, we were here first! Like, they keep saying that over and over again. Like, they're at the Steamworks. I guess this is before the Diesel Works is established, but, you know, I find that funny. So, these episodes, pretty solid episodes, just not quite the 2 best episodes of the season. And finally, we come to A tier, where we have 2 episodes. We have Being Percy and Merry Winter Wish. We'll start with Merry Winter Wish, which was kind of a surprise episode. I actually really enjoyed the story. You know, it doesn't feel like Thomas is being an idiot for the sake of a plot. It feels generally earnest. You know, Thomas has to take this star around, and he's told that this star can grant wishes, so he tries to help his friends grant their wishes, and doesn't work. There's a really funny moment, I don't think it's intentionally funny, where after Thomas has his accident and the star is damaged, Henry and Percy and James arrive to help, and they all have various jobs to do to help Thomas out. Percy's job is to watch the star, and he's just literally staring at it with, like, the most serious expression, and it's kind of hilarious. It's almost something like what a child would do if you asked them to, like, watch something and they're just staring at it intently. It's like the same energy of, like, SpongeBob's focusing joke, if you know what I'm talking about. And then you have Being Percy, which I think is, like, the best episode of the season. I think this is a pretty sound story. It's just Percy looking up to Gordon and wanting to be more like him because he's so shy and timid. And I think it leads to a pretty cool part where Gordon and Percy basically play chicken and Percy wins, which is not a good thing with a passenger train, but, you know, that's what happens. It's an overall pretty solid episode. So, once again, we have not had an S-tier episode. I think we've gone 3 seasons without one. But yeah, so here's the complete tier list of episodes. Season 14 probably is the worst season that I've watched so far. I think it's the first season where there's clearly more episodes in the D and F tier than the A and B tier. A lot of the season was either bad or just meh. There wasn't really a lot of good. So unfortunately, this season won't grade very highly with me. Very much a forgettable season, but to be honest, kind of the highlights of the season in a way were Bash Dash and Ferdinand. I kind of like how they work off of the Sodor engines, and a lot of the plot lines with them is just how weird they are compared to how quote-unquote normal the Sodor engines are. So I do kind of like that dynamic. Anyway, this is Train King James signing off. See you around, guys.